BYU beat a team that's better than Wyoming on the road. Texas Tech is the best school in the Big 12. How about Kansas and Arizona State? Do we have to watch out for them now? This, is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. I want to start here. I feel so honored just to cover the Big 12. Like, dude, watching the games yesterday and knowing that I could talk about them with you, whether it was BYU, Arizona State, even Utah. I love a lot of Utah fans. It is so cool that a conference that is often underrated and overlooked is one that you and I every Sunday can sit down and say, you know what? That was pretty darn good. And we had a whole lot of fun watching it. First and foremost, and here's where I may get bitten, because I live on the East Coast and these games happen even when I'm in a hotel. Thanks for watching a podcast done in a hotel. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Because I'm on the East Coast, it gets really late when I record these. So I'm going to record during the Colorado-Wyoming game and just say Colorado's defense looks super good. If Wyoming comes back and wins this, we got problems. But for now, Colorado looks pristine, and I'm very happy Deion's team is back. But also, does that mean Wyoming is bad? This is where I want to take this week's conversation. I'm going to start with the big overview of the Big 12. Then I'll talk in the middle segment, Texas Tech, Utah. Then finally, I do believe that a coach who's been in our league for 25 years deserves some conversation. Why we should fire Mike Gundy. The Texas Tech, Utah game, I'll go in depth into in about 7 minutes. But first, I want to start with the rest of the league. And where I think TCU beating SMU 35-24, their defense coming up clutch when it was needed, their defense being hard-hitting, UCF beating Bill Belichick. You understand? Bill Belichick has 6 Super Bowls? And Scott Frost, UCF head coach Scott Frost, just beat him? Like, we live in a timeline where the University of Central Florida just beat North Carolina, coached by a 6-time Super Bowl champion. Kansas over West Virginia. Now, I should have read this. This was wrong in my book on the Big 12's best bets this week. Kansas over West Virginia should have been a lock of the week. It should have been. Looking back, the emotional win for West Virginia, they're still not a very good football team, and I think that's okay. I do believe West Virginia will get there, and West Virginia will get there under Rich Rodriguez. Nico Marchiol is not a Big 12 championship level quarterback. He can't go on the road and win a game like this for West Virginia. You know, Jalen Henderson's good. He can't win the game alone. And for Kansas, Jalen Daniels didn't have to be great. 3 touchdown passes, but 12 for 24, 138 yards. Cole Ballard came in because Daniels was hurt for a little bit. But LaShawn Williams, that guy running the football, and the defense of Kansas was incredibly impressive. And that's where I want to go. If we talk about Utah falling off the map as a contender, do we now talk about BYU being in that mix? Do we talk about Arizona State being back in that mix, despite Sam Levitt not being an elite quarterback, not being a Heisman winning quarterback as we expected? 22 of 32 is not elite. 221 yards is not great. 1 touchdown, nah. The run game was great, kind of built around Levitt. They thought they could run the football with him because Baylor is so bad defensively against the run, and they did so fairly effectively. 15 carries, 62 yards, and a touchdown for Levitt. 27 yards, his longest of the night. Do we worry about Arizona State now? Do we fire Dave Aranda at Baylor? I think both those questions are very reasonable, and the answer should be yes to both. I have asked for Dave Aranda to not be the head coach at Baylor for a couple of years now. Then there's the BYU-East Carolina conversation. This game, I watched almost every snap of Big 12 football on Saturday. I was glued to my TV. This game reminded me a lot, hear me out, drum roll please, of Utah and Wyoming. Now, Utah's not good, except for maybe they are. I believe, if I had to put my finger on it right now, I would still have Utah in the category of good. I believe that Utah can still be an 8 or 9 win team. So comparing a gritty road win, like 34-13. Sounds weird to say gritty, but ECU played this closer than that score. If you watch the game, you know, like it was not a blowout the whole time. You knew BYU was going to win, but they weren't going away with it. 34-13. Utah struggles in the first half, same way BYU did, but Utah struggled against Wyoming, and Wyoming is proven to be a very bad football team. UCLA is a very bad football team. For BYU, they beat an ECU squad that is leagues better than Wyoming and did it on the road. In an environment that started as pretty tough, too, because ECU has a good fan base and a tough place to play for the group of 5 or 6 or whatever the group is now. BYU's defense is going to grade. They allowed 13 points, which was more than they probably should have. There were a couple garbage time, late drives for ECU that sucked, and you're like, it's going to hurt your analytics. But this BYU defense might be one of the best defenses in the country. And they allowed 404 yards. But if you watched this game, you would have said, wow, ECU can do nothing. And BYU is so hard hitting. It makes me wonder, do we open up that category behind Texas Tech and probably behind Iowa State right now? Do we open up the category of BYU, TCU, Arizona State, Kansas, Houston, what are you doing here? Do we open up that category? I don't think Arizona's ready for it yet. But do we say of those teams, you're that number 2 spot. You're the number 2 squad in Arlington right now. If Texas Tech is the lock, then BYU can be right behind them to be also in that conversation for the Big 12 championship. I mean, Bear Bachmeier, 246 yards passing. Bachmeier's ability to run and escape the pocket or run on designed runs is impressive. Bachmeier, 26 yards on 5 carries and a touchdown. It's not great, but he had a 16-yard rush and a TD. Throwing the football, they're still being... I tweeted this out, and I believe it. Jay Hill, the defensive coordinator at BYU, is not sending a Christmas card ever to Aaron Roderick, the offensive coordinator. There's no way. I bet Jay Hill opens every meeting and be like, hey, Aaron, could you just score a little bit more for me? 34 points is fine, but God bless America. The defense is so good and the offense feels lackluster despite scoring 34 points sometimes. I think we're back on Arizona State. I think we're back on Kansas. I think we're there on Kansas. I think we're there on BYU. We're there on TCU. And for Utah, the sad part for you is that everybody else just kind of opened up and showed you that, hey, they're winning some, and the transitive property doesn't always work in college athletics. You can't say, you beat so-and-so and we beat so-and-so, so it makes us better than you. It doesn't always work that way. But it certainly feels like now for Utah, who thought they were the big dogs a week ago, and who thought they had home field advantage and they haven't won a Big 12 game at home yet, who thought that they had all that a week ago, they now look around and say, oh no, there are a lot of Utahs or a lot of teams that are either equivalent or better than the product the Utes are putting out there. That shows me the depth of the Big 12. That shows me that this conference has, again, a list of teams that behind like Texas Tech and Iowa State will vie for the second spot in Arlington that I do believe that Texas Tech will have. That I believe that Iowa State has a leg up to get. And that's where I just freaking love the Big 12, man. I just had fun watching these games. It made me happy in my soul. Coming up, Texas Tech, Utah. Here was my instant reaction in the moment when this game ended and Texas Tech blew out, like no mercy, blew out Utah. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, today's show is brought to you by the Game Cap. My Game Cap came in the mail last week. It is a West Virginia Mountaineers Game Cap from the 1990s. I was not even born yet. Quick question for you all, your college football fans. What hat would you be wearing if you could go back to the biggest rivalry game your school's ever played? For me, it's the Game. Yeah, the Game. 80s and 90s hats. And guess what? They go for the same price they did in the 80s and 90s. Your code is Locked On. Use code Locked On. All caps, one word, Locked On. And it'll get you a vintage hat for $16.99. TheGameCaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design. Use code Locked On for an exclusive discount. Because legends wear the game. It's TheGameCaps.com. Visit TheGameCaps.com and do it today. Raider power. This is, and it's a small sample size, I know, but I think we're seeing the best team in Texas Tech history. This is a defense that has never graced Lubbock. This is a defense that has never graced West Texas, and right now it is all West Texas. Salt Lake City, 34-10 was West Texas on Saturday. That was BTA, belt to ass, as they say. And not only did Texas Tech win by 24 points on the road, when I was told that the road environment was so bad, that the road environment was so bad for Texas Tech because it was so good for Utah that the Utes could never lose at home. This is a different team. They have Devin Dampier at quarterback, and he's going to be so good. Can I show you the box score? Texas Tech just beat you with their backup quarterback, who looked better than the starting quarterback. And if Baron Morton can't come back for a couple weeks, Will Hammond had 2 touchdown passes, 13 for 16, by the way, a 10.5-yard average per pass. Baron Morton, 7.5 yards per pass, 12 for 19. That's worse than 13 for 16. 142. I'm not saying Baron Morton's bad here. I'm just saying you have a quarterback who's possibly just as good behind him in Will Hammond. A quarterback coming behind him that Utah certainly couldn't stop. And for Utah, Devin Dampier, say it with me, was not good. You told me pregame, you told me to go put $100 on Devin Dampier Heisman. He looked bad. Even when his guys were open, he looked bad. His offensive line did not look as elite as you told me it was going to be. They waxed poetic, Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, about how Kyle Whittingham says this is his best offensive line he's ever had at Utah. If that's the case, they just got worn down and bullied 34-10. BYU won today. Iowa State won today. TCU won today. A lot of Big 12 teams looked across their television screens and said, oh, Utah's not as good as I thought. You could say that, yeah, well, Utah's defense is really good. And Utah's defense, let me tell you, for 3/4 of this game was elite. But how at altitude? This is another big question. How at altitude did you just get whooped by Texas Tech? I was also told pregame, I don't know if those boys from Lubbock can come. I think it may have been Desmond Howard on game day. Everybody on game day picked Utah. Said, I don't know if those boys from Lubbock can go to altitude here in Utah and be able to knock off the Utes. They're going to wear down. They're going to need oxygen. There's just no way. 34-10. How's the tune of that? And not to mention, Texas Tech, you're not perfect. Can I go for a second here? If I'm BYU, I'm looking at this game. I always say looking at this game and saying, shoot, Texas Tech is good. But also, you've got to fix some stuff. There were areas where Joey McGuire kind of looked lost. Why are we still clapping the amount of penalties? 14 penalties for 122 yards. And Utah fans will say, oh, we got screwed by the refs, and oh, they gave us bad spots, and oh, they missed some holdings. You had 2 penalties called against the Utes. 2 penalties. Texas Tech, 14 for 122 yards. 2 turnovers. And both of those from Baron Morton, I don't think were his fault. In each of those scenarios, it's like the wide receiver kind of gifted the ball to Utah. But in this matchup, Texas Tech showed in areas that it is fallible, that Texas Tech is not perfect. And part of that, I mean, I hope this team is locked in, tapped in, doing log rolls for every yard that they gave up in penalties this week against Utah. This game could have been, understand, due to those penalties and turnovers, this game could have been 45-10. There's not a world, I'm looking at statistically, Texas Tech was 9 for 17 on 3rd down. Almost doubled up Utah in yardage. Tech was 484 in the yardage category. Utah was 263. Passing, Utah 162 yards to Texas Tech's 311. I told you Texas Tech would win this game. I told you Texas Tech would win this game. I tried. I hope you put money on it. I did. Utah 4 for 16 on 3rd and 4th down. I'm telling you, Texas Tech is a few penalties away. Cleaning up the penalties, cleaning up the false starts. Stop clapping. Go on a silent count when you can't hear, and credit to Utah for a great atmosphere at Rice-Eccles Stadium today. Might as well call it Bryce-Eccles Stadium. You can rename it. Chris Level, who said that Texas Tech might go in there and spank or whoop or wallop Utah, was correct. That's exactly what the Tech Raiders did. This is a couple penalties away from Texas Tech winning 45-10 on the road. The Utes, Kyle Whittingham has yet to win a Big 12 game at home. And that's who I was supposed to be scared of. Tech looked dominant. Again, fallible, not perfect, but altogether dominant. Now, Utah has to go on the road against West Virginia, play Arizona State, and that coveted game against BYU on October 18th. That one's big. I think Utah still deserves to be a top 25 team. I think Utah still wins at West Virginia. They still win at home, their first home Big 12 victory against Arizona State. And now the Holy War just got so much more massive. And the week after the Holy War, the Texas Tech Red Raiders face BYU. Their upcoming schedule. Look at this. Can I read you their final scores so far this year? 67-7, 62-14, 45-14. 34-10. As the opponents have gotten better, Texas Tech has looked more and more elite. At Houston's not easy. Kansas at home, not easy. At Arizona State, certainly not easy, and they could sleep through the Oklahoma State game. But what I saw from a physicality standpoint, and namely if Texas Tech cleans up the turnovers, the Red Raiders are the best team in the Big 12. The Red Raiders might not lose a game this season. Last year, after the Utah and Oklahoma State game, we said, did we just see the two best teams in the conference play? And the answer was certainly no. Neither of them made bowl games. This is different. Utah's season is not over. They could walk into that game against BYU undefeated. They probably will walk into the game against BYU undefeated. For Texas Tech, their season's just begun. This is a college football playoff team, whether or not they win it in Arlington. And if they have a rematch in Arlington, I think Texas Tech wins the game by more than they did today. Apparently, no matter who's at quarterback. Houston on the road, again, that's going to be tough. Like tough as in Tech wins it 21-13. Kansas at home is tough. Tough as in Tech wins it 34-20. Arizona State on the road, kind of the same thing. 34-20. Oklahoma State, they could beat them 55-0 at halftime if they wanted to. Then on the road at Kansas State, and then playing BYU at home. And on the road against Kansas State's an easy win. That BYU game, I think, just got a whole lot bigger. That's kind of where my crash course sits right here, because these teams both play BYU. For TCU, for Iowa State, Texas Tech, BYU, that's the square top four for me in the Big 12 right now. I think Utah's looking at that 5, 6, 7 spot. They didn't look like they looked like Houston has looked. And Houston's looked pretty good for what Houston was expected to be. That's not what Utah wanted to be. They didn't want to be pretty good for what Houston was expected to be. They didn't want to be in that category with the Cougars, but they are. I'm not going to sell all the way. I'm not going to sell all the way for Utah, but I'm going to buy all the way for Texas Tech after this game. Sign me up for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders, who are my preseason Big 12 champions. There's a reason I have them in Arlington. There's a reason they're going to Arlington. Today, I think it helps showcase that. Utah's still an 8 or 9 win team. Their year's not over, but Devin Dampier didn't look good. He looked like Daquan Finn. He looked like Daquan Finn, I tried to tell you. We're a quarterback away. Yeah, he's really good at New Mexico. But when you're playing Texas Tech, well, they bought that roster. They can. You can too. You're telling me Utah doesn't have any rich donors? Put your money up, not your funny up. Texas Tech wins. Don't go anywhere. Hey, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I went, and I told FanDuel, I said, FanDuel, hey, I would love to put $100 on Texas Tech to win. They said, we'll give you $145 if it hits, and it did. The NFL season and college football season are both here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So that's what I did. I went and I used my bonus bets, $100, bam, Texas Tech. They win. I get the money instantly. Quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Saturday or Sunday. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. You place that $5 bet with FanDuel, and if it hits, you get $300 in bonus bets. All of that and more. Do it today with FanDuel. Today's show is also brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home. Whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows you by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades, they're the places that bring people together. There's a local bar in Savannah, Georgia called Island Daiquiri, and I love it very much. Comes alive every Sunday during football season, every Saturday night during football season as well. That's the kind of place that I love to be in, a little dive bar like Island Daiquiri on Wellington Island in Savannah, Georgia. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. Go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. Square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood with Square. Gundy's done. You lost to Tulsa, and Gundy's done. And the worst part about having to fire Mike Gundy is he is Oklahoma State football. I think what we need to understand, he's the Hall of Famer. He'll be a legend. He'll never buy a beer in Stillwater, but it doesn't mean he should still be the head coach at Oklahoma State. And that you and I are both human, and Mike Gundy is human, and I'm wanting him to be fired for the sake of him. It's not benefiting anyone that he's coaching Oklahoma State right now. It's not benefiting anyone that Baylor Hayes, Sikkim, is beating you, that Tulsa is coming into your house and beating you. It's not good for Mike Gundy, and it's certainly not good for Oklahoma State. I think the Cowboys fans deserve better. And you know what? Can I say something controversial? I think Mike Gundy deserves better. I look at the situation with Gary Patterson at TCU, where he was the legend, 25 years there. He builds the program, wins the Rose Bowl. He's going to a bowl every single year, and then bam, they oust him in the middle of the season. It seemed like at the time it was best for Gary Patterson. It was maybe best for TCU, and maybe his camp would disagree. I think these situations are even a little bit different. Gundy has seemingly completely lost the fastball. TCU wasn't losing to Tulsa. I think Gary Patterson could have had a couple more years and a really good run. For Mike Gundy, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have 10-2 in his back pocket next season. He doesn't have 11-1 in his back pocket. And no amount of NIL is going to change this. Everything that he is trying is not working at this point. And because of that, for the sake of Mike Gundy, for the sake of everyone involved, it should just go away. So here's the perspective that I have as a human being. I have worked at places in the past where I felt like I did a good job, and then you kind of ebb and flow in media where, oh, your numbers are down recently. It's like, okay, well, let's get the numbers back up. And the numbers don't get up, you end up being fired. You end up being let go. That's kind of the situation when I wrote for Sports Illustrated. It's like my content wasn't doing very well, and like I had a really good start. And these aren't apples to apples, obviously, but at the end of it, like me as a human being, I could feel my bosses, and if you've ever been fired, maybe you felt this. I could feel my bosses weren't very I suck at writing, by the way. This is why I don't write. I could feel that they kind of wanted me out. This is just going to be smoother and easier for everyone. My product wasn't as good because I didn't have the support of my peers, of the people who read, of my bosses, and from Mike Gundy as a human being. When you don't have the support of your boss, when you don't have the support of a fan base, when you don't have the support of your consumers, why would you want to win? Why would I want to do well in a job as a regular human person, much less a multi-million-dollar contracted coach in Power 4 football? Why would I want to win when I have no support? Why would Gundy want to win? It makes me feel so bad for a guy that I think is altogether goofy. I think is altogether good-spirited. That from the takes of a lot of his players, especially early in his career, before he lost the fastball, that he was a coach that players liked to be around. The coaches I've talked to who have been around Mike Gundy all say pretty much the same thing. Like, yeah, he's a friend. Like, yeah, when he reaches out, we reach out, we talk, and he's a nice guy. Like, he built Oklahoma State football. He's going to get the orange jacket. He's going to be immortalized. He may even have a statue. He's the best coach in that program's history. He made them what they are, but it doesn't change the fact he's losing to Tulsa at home. It doesn't change the fact that he can't get it done against anybody, much less real competition. This is Tulsa we're talking about. They're not even a good group of 5 or 6 or 8, whatever, how many of the group leagues we have now. They're not even good at that. The legend card runs out at some point. It is run out for Gundy. And I understand why he's probably pretty apoplectic and lethargic about Oklahoma State football, and why winning for him is something that is hard to do. Why winning for him and winning for people that are not supporting him is hard to do, and not something he necessarily has at the top of his list right now. You could hear it in talking. I asked him at Big 12 Media Days about athletes and entitlement. He's like, we deal with that every day. There's a reason Nick Saban's out of the game right now, because it probably sucks to be a coach, because most of these kids are focused on money, and there aren't enough limitations. There aren't enough guardrails to keep these kids from being too greedy to actually want to play football for their school, to actually want to represent their school. Heck, if you like a freshman quarterback at whatever school you root for, God knows you shouldn't buy their jersey. You're just pissing money away. They're going to transfer in 2 years. I wouldn't want to coach in that. When the entire system around you has failed, when the greater system around you has failed, the parent company, the NCAA, and then your own boss really hates you and just wants you gone, and your entire office, your entire fan base, the people that you brought here are like, you know what? We're tired of this. We're tired of being berated. I'm cool with it, dog. Leave. Mike Gundy, go coach at Friends University, and my goodness, you could be the bee's knees there. They probably love you. You don't have to win a game. Friends University got Mike Gundy. I'm cool with that. Or Mike Gundy coaches at Oklahoma State, and Dominic Richardson, the Baylor Bear, and the Oklahoma State Cowboy, comes back to town to the tune of 146 yards tonight. That's just not good, man. This was a stupid, sloppy game. Tulsa scored 19 points. You were 14-point favorites, 10-point favorites toward the end, by the end there, according to Las Vegas, and you lost the game outright to a bad football team. Oklahoma State will likely go 1-11. I don't see them sneaking up on anybody. And I just don't think you need to prolong this. You get the vasectomy now. Snip, snap. We're done. We're done. We're done. Cut it now and say goodbye. And it's probably going to be a really nice fall for Mike Gundy. He's going to go to Pigeon Forge. He's going to go to the lake. He's going to fish. I hope to shake his hand one day. I hope that you get to shake his hand one day and say, Coach, thanks for a really good tenure. Thanks for a really long run. But it's not going to work out. There's no reversing this. That opportunity is gone. I don't even want to talk about the game. Do you think there's a point to talk about this game? I mean, do you think that you and I need to sit here and try to, whoa, wow, really couldn't beat up the too high safety tonight? Oh, RPO wasn't looking great. I mean, do we want that? I don't think it's necessary. I think in all, what we are seeing here is the end of a tenure. And the end of a tenure that is admirable, really, really admirable for what he's done for Oklahoma State. But I'm sorry, Mike. You know, I didn't want it to be like this, right? Like you never want to be talking about a guy who's getting fired. But that's where we sit right now with Mike Gundy, and that's where I think we're headed. And so, to that, tip of my cap to you. You're a Hall of Famer. You're seemingly a great guy, Mike. But it's time, boss hog. Administration, it's time. Fan base, it's time. Who's next? Is it Rhett Lashley? Do you go down and do you grab, if not Rhett Lashley, do you grab DJ Kinney? Do you grab Jeff Traylor? A lot of good options out there. Be like, oh, well, who's going to win? If it's not Mike Gundy, who's it going to be? Anybody at this point, really, dog. Anybody at this point. Sucks. Sucks for a guy that I think is a good guy. Haven't met him. Haven't been around a ton, but I think he's a good guy. Maybe you'll win next year. This just sucks as a fan, dude. I've been there, too. Grew up rooting for the Arkansas Razorbacks and the Baylor Bears. Ugh. Watched both those programs go like 1-11, 2-10. It just sucks, dude. I'm sorry. This has been It Always Will Be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande. Today's show is brought to you by the Game Cap. My Game Cap is the West Virginia Mountaineers. You can go to thegamecaps.com right now and get your favorite hat from the 80s and 90s from your favorite team. It's the game. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles fans wore back in the day. And guess what? They still go for the exact same price they did back then. $16.99. With my code Locked On, get your vintage hat for $16.99. Thegamecaps.com. Already got mine. It's West Virginia. I wear it all the time. Locked On is your code for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. Go to thegamecaps.com and do it today.